All right, now this month of July, it was an eventful month to say the least, with stocks and cryptos hitting all-time highs. But risk assets ended July on the back foot as US President Donald Trump unleashed higher tariffs on most of the world. Next up, now let's take a look at WION's global markets and economic health check to see what happened during July. And this is going to be a global health check. We'll go into it one location at a time. Starting with crude, which surged once again, rising 7.4% in the month. Still, the oil market saw some cooling on increased production by the OPEC Plus group led by Saudi Arabia. The volatility, though, was evident from differing bets on US President Trump's tariff headlines almost every other day through the month. Bitcoin gained nearly 9%, making it one of the best performing assets despite some easing towards the end of July after hitting a new all-time high of above $123,000. And coming to gold, it has also gained ground in July on rate cuts bets. Bullion rose over 1% last month. The dollar saw the biggest reversal, gaining 3.4% on Trump's tariffs rhetoric. Now, moving to the Asia-Pacific stock markets. China's main stock index led the gains in the region with a 3.7% surge. The US-China trade truce kept investors betting on Chinese stocks through the month. Talking about Australia, its stock index and Japan's Nikkei made prominent gains. However, Indian stocks were the only laggard in Asia. Indian stocks closed in July with losses of 3.4%, reflecting signs of the pull and push in the trade war talks. Coming to the Americas next, Wall Street extended the bull run from April lows with benchmarks hitting multiple record highs through July. The S&P 500 gained over 2% and a close above 6,300 points from the first time ever. And that comes after the benchmark index gained about 5% in April and marked its best May since the year 1990. The tech-heavy Nasdaq surged even more. Nasdaq soared 3.7%, extending the nearly 16% surge in April and May. That rally was driven largely by solid earnings. Then Canadian stocks also ended July with gains, while the Brazilian equity index ended the month deep in the red. The 4.2% loss in Brazilian stocks reflected in the tariffs hit to the economy. Over to the Atlantic, European stocks surged in July. Benchmarks across the region closed in the green. UK's FTSE led the gains, closing 4.2% higher. German DAX gained nearly 1% and the French CAC rose 1.4%. The South African stock index added 2.2% in addition to the 3% rise in June. All right, next, let's turn our attention to the overall economic outlook. Looking at Asia-Pacific region first, Trump's trade war worries have weighed on the outlook for global economies. In Asia, India is still expected to be the fastest growing major economy in the world. However, a standoff with US on tariffs of 25% is likely to weigh on India's growth. The outlook for the rest of Asia remained negative. Coming to China, the outlook is still mired in doubts from the recession in its real estate crisis. However, the latest trade truce with the US are good signs for the economy, as reflecting in a rebound in manufacturing activity. The economic outlook for Japan and Aussies mirrored worries from Trump's trade war. Coming back to the Americas, the economic outlook for the US, Canada, Brazil and Argentina shows trade tariffs are likely to hurt economic growth. For the US economy, stagflation bets are still weighing on sentiment and the outlook. The biggest data revision since the pandemic for US jobs is now increasing bets for the Fed to cut rates in September. However, complicating the Fed's job, tariffs are starting to show up in inflation. On the other side of the Atlantic, the negative outlook seems to be more widespread. The expectations show the clouds are darkening again for the UK and other European economies. The trade deals agreed with the US point to more pain, and those worries continue to cloud the outlook for the region. The story wasn't very different for African economies, where the outlook remains negative.